All right, so we're back here tonight at Charleston Speedway, and we're doing another golf cart interview. And this time we've got Mr. Sonny Ross on with us. Sonny owns a track, promotes a track here at Charleston. Has since we started coming back to racing, and we love coming here. Obviously, we think he's done a great job, but I figured it's probably about time for us to get him on here and let everybody else get to know him. So I'm going to start off really simple. Tell us about you.
Tell you about me. That's a broad question. Let's dive off in the deep end right out of the gate.
Let's just get going right into it. I don't beat around the bush.
I appreciate you doing these. I've seen some others that you've done. I really appreciate just any extra additional exposure and just talking to people allows others to learn more about them. Allows them to learn about the drivers, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you. My name is Sonny Ross. I'm gonna be 53 here in a few days.
Oh,
I know.
You got me. You got me.
Yeah, 40 was a number. 50 is also a number, and then it just seems like every number after is an additional number. But I obviously I love racing. Loved racing for a very long time. I've got 3 beautiful young ladies. Olivia's our oldest, and then the twins Lucy and Leela. Leela will be upset because I said Lucy's name first. Leela is older by 12 minutes, and she will be sure to tell you that.
I'm married to a twin, and they'll let you know.
Yeah, and so I love those 3 girls, and my wife is probably an angel in disguise. The stuff she's put up with me and the things that we've done, and it's been pretty wild. So I have a great family. My mother comes out here and works every week in the pit shack. Yep. So, my family goes broader than just what lives under my home. My sister comes out here, and her 2 children come out here and work all the time. And I just really appreciate everything they do. But I'm a volunteer firefighter at Windsor. Have been, where it's the town I live in, have been for a lot of years. I'm also an EMT. That's kind of some of the things that I like to do. Volunteer, give back, and probably if I would have pushed becoming a firefighter earlier in life, that's probably what I'd have been when I grew up, but I kind of missed that boat. I got too old. But
I was on our volunteer to fire department for a number of years. My dad was the chief in a little town that we grew up in, and I think it's kind of a thankless job in some ways, because you put up with a lot of interesting stuff, especially small town.
For sure.
But it can be very rewarding, and it feels good to give back to the community in that way.
Yeah, but that's kind of who I am. I have been identified as a jack of all trades and a master of none, which it takes a person like that really to run. You either have to have a pile of money, which I don't have, or you have to be able to work on a tractor, and then 20 minutes later go work on something electronic, so the timing and scoring system or something like that. You've really got to be versed in a lot of different things to even undertake something like this. And I'll be 100% honest with you. I don't tend to lie at all. I kind of hate that saying, but I catch myself saying it all the time. I need to come up with something better. But when I bought this place, I did not realize the workload that was going to be involved, everything that was going to be a part of what the operation was. I've done a lot of learning over the last 5 years. This is coming in on the end of our 6th season, so I've learned a lot. But that's probably who I am, I guess.
That's good. So how did you guys get involved in racing? Because I'm sure you just didn't wake up one morning and go, hey, I want to buy a dirt track and go run it and put up with a bunch of 100%. Prima donna dirt racers. What's the history there?
So, yeah, that's a great question. Most people don't know. I grew up racing. I grew up getting exposed to racing here at the Charleston Speedway. I grew up sleeping on the grandstands during feature times. When I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. That's what we did on Saturday nights. My parents didn't race. They didn't have race cars. But yeah, I grew up here doing a lot. And then when I turned 16, I got my license, of course, so I had a little freedom. And an old racer here, some people will remember him, some won't. His name was Bill Thomas. As far as I know, he's still alive, still around. He raced what they call the bombers back then. It was they had the bombers and the super streets. And Bill West was kind enough to help me out and let me come and help him work on his race car. And I would do that. I'd drive over to Charleston all the time and help him work on it. And we had lead sleds. He loved Ford LTDs.
Oh my.
You know, we're out here trying to run against little lightweight unibody Camaros.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, can we get a lighter car? No, them things aren't safe. And so I spent a couple of years helping him. And then I really wanted to race. I really wanted to race myself. I didn't have enough money to buy a car. I didn't have enough money to build a car. But I found go-karts over at the Coles County track, just about 15 miles from here. I found go-karts, and I could afford a go-kart. And we started racing over there. My brother and I, which my younger brother, he's 12 years younger than I am, we started going week in, week out. And ultimately, that's where we started racing, was there. And from then, I could take you down so many rabbit trails of micro sprints and midgets and sprint cars and ARCA and NASCAR and just, I've done so many different things in racing, always trying to, I guess, move up to the next level. I probably would say I had an aspiration to work for a cup team. By the time we spent so much time racing go-karts and racing micro sprints, and that was in the era of Jeff Gordon. When Jeff Gordon came on scene, we're going back that far. And so it was kind of a path to NASCAR, right? Coming through that rank there. Jeff Gordon had come through the midgets. And I've driven some asphalt stuff. I didn't love it. My car owner really didn't love it. One night at IRP, they had to load our truck with a telehandler because we got all four tires, all four corners. The truck was just destroyed. So my car owner didn't love me driving. So I thought, well, I can work on these things. And then when you start thinking about, I live up here, all that's down south. Am I gonna move? What about family? And it was just never in the cards. It just never worked out. I got to stick my toes in that water just a little bit and had a blast doing it. But as far as full time, that just never come to fruition. So, you're relegated to something else. My brother and I actually raced a modified here in 2004. Nobody remembers it because we were the field filler. We were lucky not to be the two-spin guy. Oh, that was a great day.
Yeah, that's
the one time he had a good run going, I forgot to put gas in it and he ran out of gas. He was so mad at me.
That happens. I have a son that's still mad at me over a heat race earlier this year. So
yeah, but I mean, I throughout my life, I started a shock company building racing shocks, and had a lot of customers out here that were, bought our product, used our product, and we helped support them. So throughout the years, I've always, like I say, I sort of started here as a very, very young child and kind of went on to something else, then come back for a little bit and then move on to something else and then come back. And it just always has been a draw. It's 40 miles from home, so it's not very far. And it's always been, I guess I'd say, it was my first experience or exposure to racing, and it's where we're at today. So
I'll say that kind of leads into my next question. What drew you to, purchase, own, promote the Speedway?
Well, when you relegate that, having the finances and the money to own a really successful team, it's a lot of money. Yeah. When you realize that that's probably not in your cards. And I don't like to go to the races when I'm not involved with someone, a team or something.
Yes.
I don't enjoy it as much. If I'm there working, I'll go down to Des Moines in the winter and push race cars. I have a great time. Yep. I like to do that. So you start whittling some of those areas out of, well, that's not an option, that's not an option. Owning a racetrack becomes the next thing. And I actually had 2 conversations with Jim Campbell before he passed about buying the Speedway. And the first time, he flat tried to talk me out of it. He's like, you don't want to do it. And I'm like, well, here's a guy that owns a track telling me that, you know. And then after that first conversation, I was working with the Coles County Modified Midget Racing Association that owns the Coles County Speedway, the one over by Matt Toon. And we were very, very close to inking a lease deal where I could lease that track. And I thought, you know, well, I'll lease that, run that, and that'll give me the exposure that that, you know, I'm wanting. That'll let me know what I, you know, if this is what I really want to do or not. Well, for whatever reason, it fell apart, and that's fine. You know, everything happens for a reason. That deal fell apart, and so I knew Jim was not well. I heard a lot of people say that Jim was not well, and it was coming up on the end of the 2019 season. And I thought, well, I'm going to go back and talk to him, sit down with him again. You know, he came here, sat down in his camper with him and Shirley and, well, actually Brad Agney and Larry Ferguson were in the camper there, and we all sat down and visited. And we talked about it, and I said, you know, are you looking to do another season? Do you want to lease it? What do you know, at that time, Larry was doing a lot of the legwork for Jim because he was just too sick to really do it. But, you know, Jim had a serious passion for this place, and he wanted nothing more than to see it go on, right? Yep. And I was kind of coming to him in that same vein, right? I know he wants to see the track go on and succeed. Can I help? Is there a way that I can see if this track ownership is something that I want to do? Can I help Jim? You know, didn't really know him very well, but I had a few conversations with him. And so we met. Well, he wasn't really interested in any of that, and that was fine. He was interested in selling, and it just wasn't going to work for us. It just flat out wasn't going to work for us in the time frame and where everything was at. This was like, I remember it pretty vividly because it was October of 19, because Brad and Larry were getting ready to do the prep work for the last race of the season. And so we kind of walked away from that meeting feeling like, yeah, it's just not going to happen. And we were okay with that. You know, it is what it is. We tried, and we kind of moved on, you know. Then in the winter of 2020, that winter of 1920 is when Jim passed away. He passed away not much longer after we spoke. I think it was in November. And, you know, so I didn't say anything to anybody. I'm definitely not going to go to Miss Shirley and try to do any shysterly stuff, or, you know what I'm saying? This, yeah. You know, my mother-in-law just passed, and I know what my wife's going through with the passing, and so for her to lose her husband, I'm just like, race cars, racetracks, we're not talking about that. And it was early January. I got a phone call, and a buddy of mine said, well, it's time for you to fish or cut bait. That's literally how he answered the phone. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, Shirley wants to sell it, and he said, I feel like the price is where it should, you know, you should be able to do it, and you should be able to take this on. It's January, so you've got time to get everything together. And he said, if you don't do this, don't ever talk to me about wanting to own a racetrack again. And I said, well, that's fair enough. And so that was on a late Saturday night. I called Larry Sunday morning, and I didn't know Larry other than that one meeting, and that was, you know, 5 months ago. And I said, hey, this is my understanding. And he said, yeah, that's true. And I said, okay, I want to buy it. And he kind of stuttered a little bit, and he said, well, you know, we need to set up a meeting with Shirley, and we need to do this. And I said, we need to negotiate price. I said, I'm not negotiating price with a widow 2 months after she's buried her husband. I'm not the price is the price, and I'll pay it. Well, okay. So, that's usually not, I guess, how most things work.
Yeah.
But, it was just at the place where we thought about it for so long. The opportunity was right. It relieved the stress and the pressure from her,
Yes.
helped us. And my goodness, Shirley, bless her heart, she was such a trooper. Of course, y'all remember that was COVID,
Yeah.
2020. And we started that in January. And I'm probably talking too long here, but
Oh, no. No, we're good. You can go.
That was COVID, and I met with a banker. We had the bank loan, had everything all set, and then COVID hit. And I'll never forget, man, it was January 13th, 2020. They shut down the schools, shut down everything. At the time, I'm driving a school bus for Windsor School District. I still am a licensed certified bus driver. I fill in when they need me to. But anyway, they shut the schools down, shut everything down. And I called my banker that afternoon. I said, hey, are we still good? And he said, yeah, we're fine, everything's good. I said, okay, because we're supposed to close like March 31st or whatever. I'm sorry, it was March the 13th. We're supposed to close March 31st. 3 days later, he calls me back. He says, hey, they're not going to loan money on a business that can't be open, because at the time,
Yeah, COVID.
racetracks where everything was shut down. And I said, well, man, what am I going to do? Well, insurance on a race facility is weird, to say the least.
I can only imagine.
And it goes annually. It's non-transferable. So Shirley's insurance was set to expire the 1st of April.
Oh.
Well, if she paid the $5,000 premium, and you got to pay it all at once, then when I get the place bought later, I got to buy a new premium, because her premium is non-transferable.
Yeah.
And I can't buy the insurance because I have no insurable asset here, because all I'm doing is contracted. I have a contract to buy.
Yeah.
So we're sitting in this, we're kind of stuck. So I gotta call Shirley and say, hey, my banker said we can't do this. She's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to find a new bank. So I started working on that. Well, then I found out about this insurance deal, so I got to call her back, and I said, hey, we got to fix this. And she's like, well, yeah, we do. I'm not buying another insurance policy. I won't blame you. So she was gracious enough that in that interim, we wrote a lease agreement that would cancel out the moment I could purchase the track.
Yeah.
So with the lease in place, then I could buy the insurance that I needed to have. Then we had insurance on the place in April and May. And then she called me back a week later, and she goes, well, why haven't you talked to my banker? I said, well, I don't know who your banker is, Shirley. Like, we're not that good of friends, you know what I mean? Well, call this guy. Well, it turns out he was the guy that had helped them get the track financed. And, he's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Come on in. We'll work this out. And one thing I learned about buying a racetrack, so the property is actually titled racetrack.
Really?
That's what's
I was always curious if
on
that's
the
how they
deed.
do it.
Yes, that's what's on the deed. So I went to my local bank that I've banked with for decades, and I said, hey, I want to buy this property. Well, they looked at the deed, and they said, well, we don't loan money to racetracks. I said, well, don't loan me money on a racetrack. Loan me money on 30 acres of ground.
Yeah.
That's really what it is at the end of
Yeah.
the day. Well, it says racetrack, so we can't do that. So Shirley's banker said, yep, we got everything, credit checks, everything checked out. Of course, we had the appraisal, everything checked out. Everything was great. It was all fine. And so he said to me, he says, well, I'll call you when the paperwork is ready. Reasonable. And the week of Memorial Day weekend in 2020, the DCEO, which is the state agency, was telling racetracks what they could do, what they couldn't do, and it changed like 4 times that week. Of course, by now, it's May. We've been shut down since March. Everyone's frustrated. Everyone's fit to be tied. It's warm out. You can't do anything. You can't go to the beaches. No baseball. There's nothing. And we don't have a liquor license. That's one thing about the Charleston Speedway. Charleston Speedway has been dry forever. I can never find a liquor license ever. And we do allow coolers in, so I understand alcohol is part of racing, but so I say that to say most racetracks were concerned that if they went against the governor's orders, They were going to lose their
liquor
state-issued
yeah.
licensing. Well, it's a pretty solid source of revenue for just about every racetrack. And so that kept a lot of folks nervous. We don't have that. I have a food license with the county health department. That's it. And I don't have to sell food. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like so we just decided that come hook or crook, we were going to open up on Memorial Day weekend, and holy smokes. Talk about not being prepared for the turnout.
Oh, I can only imagine that.
It was crazy, dude. Like, so the grandstands will hold 1,800 people, right at that number, 1,800. So, in working with now I don't want to act like I'm this rebel renegade. I was working with local state agencies because I did not want to get arrested and go to jail, and that's what they were threatening, right? And so I said, well, look, we'll sell 500 tickets. You know, that's like a third capacity. And she said, she was great. She was helpful working with us. And that was what was really wild, you know. The state agencies are telling us, you know, stop. The local agencies are saying, well, how can we help?
Yeah,
you know?
no kidding.
So we spun 500 tickets off. Now, normal attendance here on a weekly race is 350, 400 people. So, quite frankly, I was tickled when she said I could have 500 tickets.
Yeah, that's a good crowd.
Because we're not going to sell 500 tickets, right? We're just, you know, we break that number on one night, and that's fan appreciation night. So I'm thinking, you know, full price ticket night, they were sold out in 30 minutes.
Wow.
Now, what was interesting about that was they would let us have as many people in the pits as we wanted. So a lot of folks went to the pits. We had 140 race cars that night. We had trucks breaking down. We had people who couldn't get here. We had my tow truck operator had a crash on the way to the track. He was air flighted out. I was literally overwhelmed. You might as well throw me in the middle of the ocean and
welcome to owning a racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, I saw myself coming and going. Larry was such a huge asset that night, and in the coming, 2 years, he just really kept the thing going and tried to point me in a direction I wasn't in somebody's way. So, we invited a bunch of state dignitaries, state reps, our Congresswoman, Miss Miller. We invited her. We had a whole bunch of people in the back that were dignitaries. And I thought process was, well, if they arrest me, they're going to take them with them.
Yeah, they're going with me.
So, needless to say, nobody got arrested. We did, the night did not go great in terms of the neighbors weren't thrilled. We hadn't raced all year, which normally we would start racing in April. There'd been no noise here. And with all the problems that we had, we didn't get done till almost 3 a.m.
Saying that's a heck of a car count.
Yeah, and the local neighbors were less than pleased with me. But that night, Larry says to me, he goes, hey, it's time for you to go turn the pit shack lady loose and close the pit shack up. And I said, okay, that's something I can do and I won't screw it up. And I go back there and I open the door and it's Shirley. And I said, Shirley, what are you doing here? Well, Larry called me and he said you needed help, and it's obvious he wasn't wrong. You need help. I said, well, holy cow, how long you been here? Well, I don't know. Can I go home? And I said, yes, ma'am, you can go home. So we're locking up. She was not gruff with me at all. I don't want to give that impression at all. But she's like, this is insane. What did you do? And I said, Shirley, I have no idea. I just unlocked the gate. And, looking back, people were looking
for anything at that
yes.
point. Any sense of hope.
Yeah, so we locked the gate. We're finishing up, and I'll see you later. And she says, hey, you call that banker in the morning. Let's get that paperwork signed. And I said, okay, what are you talking about? She said, well, he's waiting on you to get open. I said, well, if that's what he's waiting on, we'd have opened a long time ago. So, yeah, needless to say, we called on Monday, and I told him we were open. He's like, oh, that's great, And then we were able to get all the paperwork done, all the fine details. But, yeah, that was a pretty wild 6 months.
That time frame, I think, was interesting for a lot of folks. I didn't even think about the fact that you guys buying the track that year being the first year.
Yes, that's
definitely something you're going to remember and a story you'll have for many years to come.
Well, we were supposed to be doing the fever, and here's what's so complicated about COVID, and it's coming up again. A lot of people are talking about it, and I don't want anybody to get sick. I certainly don't want anybody to get sick here. So we were trying to do with limited information. Hindsight's always 20/20, but our EMS guys would show up early, and they were doing. We bought a touchless infrared temp gun, and they were taking temps on the way in. And if anybody had a fever, we're like, hey, do you know you have a fever? And one or two, we would turn away, say, hey, you probably should go home and get this checked out. So our EMS was doing a lot of things that they never thought they would ever have to do. We had lines that were just stretched all the way down this road of people waiting to get in. They were just yearning for anything to do.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was very wild. 2020 was very wild.
So, what is one thing that's happened to you at the track that you consider a very fond memory?
So, this is going to be kind of crazy, but a lot of people know me as having an open wheel background. In fact, a lot of people were afraid that I was going to purchase this track when they figured out who I was. I'm going to shut down stock car racing. This is going to be an open wheel only track. And I'm like, you don't know me very well. But, my brother and I spent a lot of time. He still races open wheel micro sprints. He builds them for a living. That's what he does. So we spent a lot of time doing that. Well, with the Power I series, we brought back midgets for the first time in 30 years, which national full midgets were here for the first time in 2020 in 30 years. That was definitely a highlight. The fans loved it. The car count showed that it was a great deal. Well, my mother has spent all these years traveling up and down the road with Heath and I. And for people watching that don't know, you'll have to Google Power I's push buggies. They got these little Jeeps that are open framed.
Yeah,
they
cool
got
as heck looking.
tow truck hook on the back. They got a little hook on the front. They can push, they can tow. They're just cool little cars. And they take them around. That's what they take with them as they travel. And my mom has always wanted to ride on those. And she didn't ever tell me, Well, with them here, now I'm friends with Kenny Brown, the guy that owns the series. I'm like, can my mom go for a ride? And he's like, absolutely. So she sat out there and watched one night for like one of the features and rode one of the push buggies. And there's Scott Lehman got a picture of it. She's got a smile on her face from one side to the other. And I'm like, Mom, if I'd have known that would have made your day like that, we could have done this years ago, I mean, but that was, that was pretty memorable. Buying the place, and then sometimes I have to sit back and look and be like, well, I own this. And then people might not know this about me. I know I'm not going to own this forever. And I see my job as carrying on a legacy of the Speedway. The Speedway is the Speedway. It's not Sonny's Speedway. Today, I own the dirt, and I'm responsible to keep this thing going so that I can pass the baton on to the next guy. And when you kind of think about the responsibility of that, and if you look at it in those terms, it's kind of overwhelming. So I kind of got to back off of that a little bit. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to do anything out here that's going to jeopardize motorsports long term. We worked with our neighbors. We imposed a midnight curfew on ourselves to help show the neighbors we're trying. The neighbors had gone to the county board, and they were a couple of meetings away from imposing a noise ordinance that would have essentially just been a noise tax, because we're going to race. We're not going to stop racing just because the clock strikes whatever, right? The feature's going, it's going to go. So it was essentially just going to be a noise tax on us. So I worked with the county leaders, the police. I worked with a lot of those people to try to get that taken away, and we were fortunate and successful in doing that. But buying the place, owning the place has been something that I will, pretty big accomplishment there. I'll just put it like that.
Yeah.
Pretty big accomplishment.
So what is something that over the years maybe, what would you say is your lowest light that you've achieved or been a part of?
Sure.
You know, one of those, because you know you always have the highs.
Yeah.
What's one of those lows that you're just look back on and like, man?
What's very frustrating for me is I'm a racer first, and I own a racetrack also. And somebody has to call stuff, right?
Yeah.
The rain out. It's too hot. Do this, do that, whatever. There are decisions that happen here all the time. And what's frustrating is when people don't think that I've thought things through very, very well. You know, we've canceled before because of heat. Well, there's a reason for that. First of all, the drivers can get hot and get overheated and become harmed. Secondly, you know, we can have fans that can become overheated and get harmed. And let's say none of that bad stuff happens, right? None of that happens. But our fan attendance is going to be low. Yeah. Our car count is going to be low. It's not going to be a successful night in any matrix that you look at. So we're already canceled. You know, when we get rain and it comes at inopportune times, I've spent hours figuring out how many inches of rain is how many gallons of water on the racetrack. It
amazes me when you give your videos and you're like, yeah, we've already gotten 3 truckloads in rain. And I'm like, how does he know? Anyway,
I spent a lot of time. I'm a numbers guy. I mean, my shot company was all about numbers, and so I'm just a numbers guy. And I got to talking to some farmers, and I said, I'd love to know, you know. And they said, well, the USGA's got this formula, and I found the formula. And then I went and measured the track, and I got a hold of some math whizzes, and I'm like, is this right? And so, yeah, when it rains in the gauge, I know how many truckloads that is, and it come out of necessity, to be honest with you, because it would rain a little bit, and everybody's like, oh, we can get the race in, myself included. Oh, we can get the race in. Well, an hour and a half later, I've tore up 2 pieces of equipment, I've flattened tires, I've burnt tons of diesel fuel, and guess what? We're not racing anyways. Yeah. So I need to learn where the threshold is. Okay, this is the breaking point. Anything past that, we can't race anyway. It doesn't matter what we want to do. And so you learn those things out of necessity. But I know a lot of people are kind of hurting right now in life, in the world in general. And when they get on social media and they're mad at me, that's fine. But like I said earlier, I'm charged with the responsibility of keeping this legacy that is known as the Charleston Speedway alive and well. And just because you're mad at me and you post some negative comment on social media, you're not really hurting me directly, you're hurting the facility. Because some random person that sees that knows, well, you're out here every week and you're saying these negative things about the place. You're really doing a lot of damage to the speedway, and it's
to the sport.
To the sport, really, right? I mean, call me up and say, what's your problem? Come out here. I mean, I'm out here when I make these tough calls. You know, well, I'll show you. Let's talk about it. Just trying to compartmentalize that negative energy that comes at you at lightning speed from a lot of different directions. That is tough. Now, I will say there have been some folks that have been incredibly supportive, and we've received some late night text messages, you know, hey, nobody ever says good job, I'm here to say good job, and that's the end of it. And those little text messages go a long way, you know. People are beginning to understand, I hope they're beginning to understand me a little better, and just, you know, I look at other racetracks too, and I know it's not just me. You know, I'm friends with Billy up at Kankakee, and Josh at Brownstown, and Tammy at Tri-City, and, you know, all these people, and people have been taking Macon to the whipping post this year, and it's like, guys, I get it, you might not like it, but can we figure something else out? Because in all, you're just damaging the thing that we all love so dearly. And trying to deal with that has been tough. So I'd say that's pretty rough.
All right, so you say, you're a racer at heart. I think all of us kind of are. And you'd have to be, I think, to do what you do. If you had to pick a class to run out here on a weekly basis, what would Sonny drive?
Oh, I drive modified.
Modified?
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured that's where you go.
I
didn't think a Hornet would be at the top of your list.
Well, I drove. Jordan let me drive a stock car one night in a mechanics race, and I looked like an idiot. Oh, it was so bad. They should have put me in the powder puff. I'd have maybe stood a chance. Powder puff with kids. Oh, it was bad. So yeah, I have always been a guy that migrated to the top tier,
Yep.
which was one of the reasons that, back earlier when I said you start figuring out that you can't do what you want to do. The car that we raced here was a modified. My brother ran a modified here. And it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money back then. It's a whole lot more money now. We're working with partners, trying to attract partners to come and help us so we can pay more money back to these drivers that have supported this place for so long. But yeah, it's difficult on all fronts, but definitely a modified.
Definitely a modified. I kind of figured, but I think all of us at some point want to, but then you get back to the whole, hey, how, me and my son both race. We try to have 2 cars here. I think we've managed it 1 year.
Right.
It's just because it's hard. And then, you step each level up.
Yes.
It just gets more and more pricey, competitive, hard to keep yourself up front. And
I know my generation, I'll speak for me and probably a lot of guys my age, I don't care if they admit to it or not. Everybody wanted to drive a NASCAR. Everybody wanted to go to NASCAR. NASCAR was huge. And so when you can't do that, then you come back. Well, I'd say in the dirt world, probably that's a super late model.
Yep.
And then, super late model drivers want to be NASCAR drivers. And modified drivers want to be super late model drivers. And stock car drivers want to, you know what I'm saying? So,
you always want to be that next one up.
Yeah. So.
No. All right, so if anybody would want to help out here at Charleston Speedway, make donations, help volunteer to work, do whatever, how do they get a hold of you?
So our Facebook page you can message us. Myself and my daughter have access to that all the time. We field those questions and try to get you pointed in the right direction. Ben Mays has been an amazing asset here at the Speedway, helping me coordinate the infield workers, EMS and fire and tow trucks and push trucks, and getting the right number, getting high caliber individuals, to come and volunteer their time. I pay them a little bit of money. I'm not paying them. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I pay these guys, dearly. I don't. We try to feed them, try to make them leave happy,
Yep.
But Ben Mays helps us out in terms of if somebody wanted to help. As far as partnerships, I endeavor to have a sheet of. I'm putting together a book, and the folks at PAP Printing here in Charleston have been helping us out on. Well, they printed our schedules for us and different things, and so I'm working with them a little bit. I want to try to get a pamphlet together where I can hand out to a potential partner and say, look, here's the bare minimum, and obviously sky's the limit. I mean, we can, within reason, we can do about anything that a person wants to do. And we have some great partners. The ones that are here have been just unbelievable to work with. They've been an unbelievable asset to the facility, and many of them have been around. They come and then they stay, and those are the ones that I'm really thankful for, because it says to me that they're getting back what they hoped they would. And so it's not just a donation thing. We gladly accept those. There's a couple of guys, we'll have the Fall Nationals coming up in October, and Josh Griffith has worked tirelessly for years on the stock car purse. This year, John Strauser is working on the factory stock purse. A lot of that money comes from just 20s and 50s from friends and family and whatever, a business here, a business there. And we try to reciprocate those advertisements and push out those folks and give them exposure to our 16,000 followers on Facebook. And then Chris Rowe's been working with us on the Hornet division, because we'll have fall nationals for those 3 classes. We'll race all 6, but we can only award points for those 3. So for now, the best way is just to reach out to us on social media, and then you can even do it on Snapchat. I don't care. We can point you in the direction or pair you up with who you need to talk to or whatever. But yeah, that's probably the best way.
So somebody, let's say Danny Haynes passes away this week, and I've left my wife $1 million.
Oh, that would be awesome.
And she
would
loves,
love that.
She knew my passion for racing, so she goes, Sonny, I'm going to donate for one project at the track. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't think I prepared you for this question. I don't matter what it is. What's the one thing you would take? What would be the first thing you'd do with a huge donation to the track? What's the facilities, equipment, whatever?
I'm probably going to blow a lot of people's minds, but I would build a wall all the way around this thing.
Oh,
I think.
All right. I told Nathan we'd talk a lot. We ended up zapping a battery. But so go ahead and answer this one for me.
I told you I was talking too long earlier.
You would build a wall.
I would build a wall. I think the racing here is great. Don't misunderstand me. Racing here is phenomenal. Saturday night we had 2 lanes. Two lanes that were obvious lanes, but you could run in the middle and get grip. But I think a wall in the corners, first of all.
Oh, that berm?
I would lose dirt. I'm losing dirt over the wall all the time. So we'd stop doing that. Secondly, it would help the racetrack kind of continually hold its shape. If you're not careful, the track will move around on you. People don't realize that. But you gotta really work things and measure things from year to year to try to make sure that the track doesn't move. And if we had a wall, that helps with that. And I think I think the racing would be unbelievable. Yeah. It would take a year or 2. Like, it's not going to be something you build a wall and next Saturday night, Katie bar the door. Because first of all, it's going to take us time to prep it, right? That's going to be a new process. Secondly, it's going to take the drivers time to adapt to it. And then they're going to have to learn how to race around it, right?
Yeah.
And so it would take some time, but man, I look at some of the greatest racetracks that I know that I think are great racetracks that provide great racing, and they got a wall all the way around them.
That's fair. That is fair. Well, is there anything else you want to put out there? Anything that has came to your mind? I know I messaged you early in the week that, hey, I wanted to do this, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Is there anything else you'd like to put out there?
Like I said, I just appreciate the opportunity to do this. I appreciate all of our partners. We have some big races that are coming up. Our next week is our Hotter Faster 40 for Topless Dirt Car Pro Mods, and then we're off September 6th weekend, and then we're coming back to the 13th. Unfortunately, that race was canceled earlier. That race, the 38 Special, which I'm wearing.
Yeah, we're both actually shouting out today.
Yeah, that's right, repping the 38 Special. That's a modified race that is typically in July, and for obvious reasons it was postponed to September 13th, so it's coming up then. And then we have our Fall Nationals that are coming up in October. Last year on the Saturday portion of the Fall Nationals, we had 150 race cars.
Yeah, it
was a banger night. So those things, and none of that stuff is possible without partners. You just can't do it. You just can't do it. No matter how hard you work, there ain't enough hours in the day. You can't earn enough money. You just can't do it without partners. So shout out to all of them. You can find those on our social media. We try to advertise them all the time. But yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate people trusting me, coming and supporting it. The drivers could boycott it, right?
Yeah.
And then I got to figure out what to do, but the drivers, we've had some conversations, obviously, and they continue to support us. The fans have continued to support what we're trying to do here, and I just really hope to be able to someday pass this baton on to somebody else that's younger, and they can carry it into the future.
Good deal. Well, I thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Obviously, we'll definitely want to have you back at some point, I'm sure.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it's going to be good for a lot of folks to probably hear some of your side and a little bit of your background. And I know I found some things in there I didn't know.
Well, I
So,
appreciate it.
but I appreciate it. And I appreciate all you do for us, the racers here at Charleston Speedway. We are racers here, so it means a lot to us to be able to come here. I've been coming here since the 70s and raced here on and off a few times, and now we've been back a few years, and we love it. We love coming here. This is our home track, our favorite track to come to, and made a lot of good friends here over the
I was
years,
talking
so.
to a guy just this afternoon, and he said racing is an addiction.
Oh.
And his friend said, yes, the only problem is there's no cure for it.
Well, there's no cure for it, and
We don't have AA meetings, do we?
no, and my wife thinks we should, because
Right.
I've got a grandson that's already ate up with it.
Okay.
You know, the whole family kind of is in a way, and she's like, what is it? And I go, it's just something you get in your blood and you can't get out.
And you know what's weird about it is, you know, you could take all your children to it, and some are going to lean into it, and some are not.
Yeah.
You know, so there's definitely, you got to have, there's something messed up or broken in all of us.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we all meet on Saturday to share our brokenness.
I figured this is a lot better than me sitting in a bar on a Saturday
Oh,
night
100%,
or, you know,
100%.
doing anything else that's silly.
You know, and
so
the thing is, if you get your kid addicted to racing, they'll spend so much money racing, they won't have enough money for drugs and alcohol.
no.
You won't have to worry about it.
You don't have to worry about it. If you get them hooked young,
That's right.
every paycheck, they're going to be out in the shed spending
That's right.
it. So,
That's right.
well, I thank you, Sonny,
Thank
and
you, sir. Appreciate it.
look forward to tonight's racing.
Awesome. Me too.
All righty.